Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks again for another installment of LinkedIn Live. My name is Brian Galicia. I lead our global business applications ISV team here at Microsoft. And it's such an honor to have Steve from Icertis join me today. But before we kind of start the dialogue, again, a few things that I always kind of kick off these events with. One, as you're watching this live stream, we'd love to actually hear, if you're watching it live, we'd love to actually hear where you're watching from. So in the LinkedIn stream, if you just want to type in wherever you're watching from, it could be London, England. It could be somewhere in the US, like San Francisco, where Steve's doing this from, or Seattle, where I'm doing this from, or anywhere around the world. We'd actually love to hear from you. During the Congress, also, if you have any questions, if something that we're talking about sparks your interest, definitely ask a question in the LinkedIn feed as well, and we can service that up so I can actually ask Steve that information in real time. And finally, as we're going through the dialogue in the LinkedIn window, if there's something that's resonating with you, just utilize one of the icons below, like, support, love, etc., etc. And
thanks for the 5-minute heads up on that last question too, by the way. So hey to everybody around the world. I see India, Minnesota, Washington, New Jersey, some awesome places. So I'm Steve Blacklock. I'm Vice President of Business Development at Icertis, and I run our technology partner team. So that's our partnerships with the likes of Microsoft, SAP, Salesforce, Workday, etc. And how does Icertis fit into the broader IT strategy for a company, and how do our partnerships help enable them to get the true value out of their contracts? That's what me and my team really do here at Icertis. As for something that's not listed on my LinkedIn profile about me, I take a very personal, keen interest in diversity and inclusion. And over my career, over my many years, it's always been something that I've been focused on. And it's not something I like to brag about or put a lot of information out. It's just something that I do. And I was fortunate enough to have met a woman in high tech many years ago who also took a very keen interest on how men promote women in high tech specifically. And she's actually writing a book, and she was interested in my story and how I've helped to promote women throughout my career. And so I'm one of the featured characters in her book that have sort of showcased how especially men in high tech can help women get promoted in high tech. So it's one of the things that I take a personal interest in, and I'm very involved in, and very proud to have been featured in this book that is not out yet. I actually am getting my preview copy shortly. The initial publish has happened, so the book should come out soon. So follow my Twitter feed when this book comes out. I'll make sure to feature it out there for everybody.
oh gosh, Steve, well, geez, that's well, thank you for doing that, because that is such a well-needed thing, especially in our industry. And of course, we all can do better, and I love seeing advocates and supporters like yourself going to do that. And so, yeah, I'd love to I'll actually now be on the lookout on my Amazon book list to check it out once it actually gets posted. So I love it. Let's do a quick shout out, and like you said, for the people watching before we get started. So John, watching actually just not too far from me, is sitting in Washington from Winnenville. I know this sometimes does not show up correctly, but Amanda, thanks for watching. I actually don't know where Minstrista is in Minnesota. I don't think I've ever been there before. I've been to Minnesota many times, but I'm like, now I have to look. I'm curious now. I have to figure out where Minstrista is. To your point, India, it's great to see. We have a pretty nice contingent from India. Kirkland, so again, not too far from us. New Jersey, Marlborough, New Jersey, another person from India. So thank you. Cincinnati, Ohio, so great. Germany, so great. Guten Tag, thank you so much, George. And then, of course, and then Anne, thanks for joining as well. I love it. So we already got someone validating that you're a great ally, so I love it. Thank you. So let's get started, Steve. When you think about contract lifecycle management, of course, sometimes people don't think about it, but it is a necessary thing in business process. Every single company, including Microsoft on the organization, has some type of contracts process, whether it be from a legal perspective, closing a deal, whatever it may be. Contract lifecycle is so relevant and important to every single business on the planet. So give us a sense from your standpoint, how does Icertis think about it, and what are some of the things that you've seen on how Icertis approaches driving a better business outcome regarding contract intelligence?
Sure. No, thank you, Brian, and thank you for taking the time, everybody, to learn a little more about Icertis here. So first, think about contracts in this way, right? A dollar doesn't enter or leave an enterprise. A customer doesn't buy from you without an NDA or an MSA or an SOW in place, and you can't purchase anything to run your business without contracts. And Icertis is transforming that foundation of commerce with contract intelligence. And during our 10+ year history, we've observed and helped shape the evolution of the contract lifecycle management or CLM market. And as technology has advanced, so has contract management and the Icertis platform. We now deliver true contract intelligence. But it didn't just start there. So in our early days, our customers were just initially implementing relatively simple automation and digitization of their contracts and their contracting processes. And we like to think of that as CLM 1.0. Mm-hmm. As we progressed over the following years, we saw a shift towards customers deriving benefits from their digitized contracts and the associated data in those contracts. So you can think back to not too long ago and remember when Azure AI and ML and cognitive services all came out. And with working with Microsoft, that enabled us to have faster and easier digitization of contracts, along with new capabilities to navigate large volumes of contract data, deliver complex data relationships, and discover patterns in your contracts. We've also been able to extract clauses from contracts to provide an additional level of intelligence to our customers. And this was really what we called CLM 2.0. And then this intelligence from your contracting data has developed into the current phase, what we like to call CLM 3.0, which has enabled our explosive growth. Contracts are now being intelligently integrated into the core business processes with other mission-critical systems of record like ERP and CRM. In fact, we're seeing the growth of CLM now, just like we used to see in ERP and CRM markets, and we see CLM now as the 5th system of record in the enterprise. And this is supported by Gartner's finding that during 2021, CLM inquiries have increased by 40% as companies prepare to respond to disruptions like we've seen with the pandemic. Gartner also states that CLM is now the 2nd most inquired about core system after CRM. And that's where Icertis customers like Airbus and Best Buy, Humana, Sanofi, and hundreds more are realizing the full value of their contracts, transforming their contract processes to leverage true contract intelligence with Icertis.
Gosh, I love it, Steve. I mean, what a great intro, because I love the 4 phases of contract lifecycle management, how it's evolved over time. And we all know that businesses, including Microsoft, and that's a plug because we actually also we're not just partners, but we all within Microsoft also use Icertis quite frequently and heavily. Like, we all know that companies want to run their businesses better. And so where do they begin? Like, when you think about contract management, of course, that starts on both sides, because you hit it on the head. Even before you establish the fact that someone wants to buy something from you, most of the time, especially in tech, an NDA always has to be in place, or some type of master service agreement. So give us a sense for how does an organization, and it's great, you talked about different industries in there, from healthcare to retail to even an airline. How did these organizations start out with contract intelligence and getting to this point of the, I guess, CLM 4.0 scenario that I think all companies aspire to?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because the other data point I'll share from Gartner's 67% of enterprise customers have no CLM in place today, none. So they do have to start somewhere. And in order to meet our customers' needs across their contracting processes, our customers have kind of shared with us, told us, here's what we're looking for from a CLM solution. So they're looking for a platform that empowers end users to intelligently set up their own contracts. They want a solution that's extremely flexible to configure, with the ability to work with any type of agreement and any agreement relationship. I mean, you talked about NDAs, SOWs, sales contracts. And that's especially valuable for enterprises that are looking to take CLM enterprise-wide, buy-side, sell-side, corporate contracts. They need that flexibility. They want to provide the end users with intuitive, personalized, what we call role-based experiences for usability for any type of user, because different users can use contracts or need to use contracts in different ways. And of course, working with Microsoft, we've set it up to provide enterprise-grade security and administration to manage, highly sensitive and confidential contract data. And we're built on natively and run natively on Azure. And so we've got a platform that also scales and integrates easily with the customer's core business processes and systems. So I wanted to actually share a quote from one of our customers, Francis A. Woodward, Senior Vice President and Chief Legal Officer and Corporate Secretary at Gateway Health. And this is a provider of managed healthcare services to recipients of medical assistance programs in Pennsylvania. So, quote, Gateway Health uses Icertis contract intelligence to manage a large volume of complex agreements while maintaining strict compliance and approval standards, speeding contracting, improving visibility, and increasing efficiency across our legal and procurement teams. We are building on this success by expanding Icertis use throughout our supplier, legal, and product services, end quote. Again, this is all powered by the Microsoft Cloud, but you can see an enterprise that starts with some contracts, but then expands it out enterprise-wide.
Gosh, amazing, Stephen. And we're going to get more towards it because one of the things I love to have in our calls with our various BizApps ISVs is just the customer stories of these outcomes that when an organization comes across a solution and really trying to drive efficiencies, how do they drive those business outcomes directly? And so the success stories, I mean, that's a good segue into talking about how organizations, and you've mentioned a few of them already, like how do they leverage that with the uniqueness of the Microsoft Cloud? And I mean, you said it spot on. It's not only does Icertis run on Azure, but of course, all the hooks you have with Dynamics and business process, because you said it, CLM is that core component of the data that flows through the system. And how does that data typically get there? Well, it typically happens in either a customer relationship management scenario, typically sales, marketing to sales, and then ERP, enterprise resource planning, or in our case, finance and operations. And then someone actually has to deliver on that. So give us a sense for how does Icertis, what are some of the other customer examples and success stories that you've witnessed and seen in your role?
Yeah, so I think there's two parts to that we can unpack here. The first is sort of the next layer of how a customer rolls out contract lifecycle management. The next phase of that customer journey with us is looking at unique customer needs, whether their industry has certain requirements to manage regulatory risk, contractual obligations, supplier relationships. There's different things in different industries. And so, when we look at those, we then also offer our customers a number of Icertis business applications that run on top of our core ICI platform that address these specific needs for all industries, whether it's financial services, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, many others. One of my favorite examples of this, not just because it's one of my favorite stores, but comes from our customer Best Buy, who's a large retailer here in the U.S. It's a great, anybody who's a geek and loves electronic stuff, it's a great store. But Best Buy leverages one of our business applications on top of our core ICI platform, which is perfect for retailers. It's the Promotions, Rebates, and Royalties app. And this helps Best Buy plan promotions and promotional agreements and pull sales data into the Icertis platform to run promotion settlements with their many vendors. So with ICI fully implemented, Best Buy is benefiting from world-class contract intelligence that has resulted in 80% faster collection of rebates and market development funds. And this is just only one example. We have many compelling customer examples leveraging a number of our business applications that you can find out there on icertis.com, and we'll give you a link here later in the show to go take a look at that. So, we're also, you talked about Microsoft, the Microsoft Cloud. Stay tuned for more details about our exciting new industry-specific solutions coming soon. Working with Microsoft, we're continually evolving and enhancing the Icertis platform, leveraging Microsoft technology and services to address these unique needs across different industries.
I love it, Steve. And that's a good segue into the next question, because, of course, many people who've been observing and watching Microsoft, one of the things is, of course, we're getting very depth on industry clouds, and in particular, of course, the broad swath of the scenarios that Icertis is taking advantage of to really strengthen the partnership to where it's a win-win for both. Well, it's a win-win-win, not just for Icertis, but for Microsoft, but also to the end customers. So you've talked about this journey of contract lifecycle management or contract intelligence on the kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera. So what's next? Of course, because Icertis is continuing to grow and expand, et cetera. And of course, Microsoft continues to innovate, not just around industry expertise in clouds, but of course, Azure Dynamics and of course, Teams. We haven't mentioned Teams, but there's so many use cases because of course, Icertis and we collaborate on Teams all the time. Give us a sense for what is next. I mean, what are some of the things that organizations, as they're either starting their journey with contract intelligence or kind of evolving, for any of the people who come across and like, oh, I use Icertis today. Like, what are they up to make it even better, particularly in the Microsoft ecosystem?
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot to unpack there, Brian. So thank you for teeing that up. I spoke earlier about the fact that CLM is going to become the fifth system of record in the enterprise. So let me sort of walk you through a little bit about how Icertis then fits into that from an enterprise context and how our end users are using it. So building on what I was talking about previously, no two customers are exactly the same. So Icertis enables customers to continue their contract transformation journey from wherever they may be in their personal or their company journey. So we leverage a lot of different technologies to do this, but we integrate with third-party apps and enterprise solutions that extend the value customers receive, both in terms of leveraging their portfolio of technology investments and also to ensure that contracting data is leveraged across the customer's systems of record. Mm-hmm. And Icertis, we built adapters to achieve exactly this, which is connecting apps to streamline processes with virtually any data source. So, we integrate with Adobe Sign for e-signature, Pros to facilitate end-to-end CPQ, SAP Ariba and SAP CX CPQ, Salesforce, and of course, with Microsoft Dynamics, among many others, depending on what the customer has deployed or how they want to implement the systems. And Icertis offers an even stronger level of integration with some core systems, which is what we call an Icertis experience. And so let's use Dynamics Sales as an example. We've built a native Icertis experience right in Dynamics 365 Sales. So sales teams can create, view, approve, and collaborate on contracts, all from within their familiar Dynamics 365 interface. So how cool is it to give that power directly to your sales teams? And so let's talk about how that actually would work for a typical sales user. The salesperson can automatically populate contracts and contract terms with their CRM data residing in Dynamics Sales. So commercial terms like product details, pricing, discounts, deal information are all translated straight into the contract data. Once the contract is created, sales can preview and edit the contracts, all still while remaining in Dynamics, and then send it on to the customer for review. Then contracts return from customers with changes. We support easy change tracking via Microsoft Word and the integrations there. So changes are redlined and flagged for review according to a user-defined workflow that's supported by Icertis. And then once the contracts are approved for signature, as I already said, we've integrated in with e-signature tools like Adobe. And another very exciting technology. Oh, and by the way, you mentioned Teams. We also have a Teams app. So right from within Teams, you can collaborate with all the data and the tools available to you from ICI. So we've linked in with many of the different technologies, core technologies, business process and business productivity tools from Microsoft. And it's a seamless integration between that and Icertis. One other very exciting technology from Icertis is the Icertis blockchain framework, which enables companies to deploy innovative contract solutions based on permissioned, standards-based blockchains. And by leveraging third-generation distributed ledger technology, we're helping our customers address real-world business challenges, such as ensuring sustainability across global supply chains, maintaining compliance with complex supplier diversity programs, or even making true outcome-based pricing a reality. And then finally, I'll just highlight what we call our AI Studio. And AI Studio is a self-serve and self-learning cognitive tool that leverages Azure AI and cognitive services to enable users to analyze multiple sets of documents in a single action and drive real-time decision-making. And last plug here, speaking of AI, we've made the Forbes AI 50 list for 3 years in a row and just recently won the Microsoft Partner of the Year Award for AI. And we're really proud to be the only company to have those two recognitions at the same time, which signifies our commitment to continue to innovate with Microsoft to deliver real-world customer benefits using the latest technologies and solutions.
I love it, Steve. Gosh, what a great summary. And I think when you think about what you just said, especially on the selling side, and this is where productivity comes in, a seller, of course, when in my former background at Microsoft, being a seller and a sales leader, it's all about optimizing the process. And you said it so well, where Icertis is part of the experience. And so when you can reduce the what I call app flipping scenarios, which is a seller is in their Dynamics experience, we want them to stay there because that's what they're doing. They're doing something to interact with that scenario. And when we can pull in contract intelligence to that experience so they don't have to leave and go to another UI or another website, but it's built into the process. And you mentioned that with teams as well. That's really where the value and the outcomes really come into play. And we love how Icertis does that. And also I want to give a quick shout out to Icertis as well, because Icertis was actually one of the finalists for ISV of the year as well. And so if that also creates a great scenario, that in itself, in addition to you winning AI and all that recognition, is an important evidence of the strong partnership we have together. So as we wrap up, and again, for people listening currently, if you have a question, if one of the questions I asked to Steve sparked something you'd like to ask, feel free to put in the IM window because we do have a few minutes left, and I'm happy to ask maybe one question to Steve. But as we get closer to closing, Steve, give us a sense for what other information would you like to share with either people who are evaluating this or may come across this. What else would be valuable for people to learn and know about contract intelligence?
Yeah, no, thank you, Brian. And yes, so look, Icertis, we're really excited about the market potential for contract intelligence, not just the market potential for us or for our partnership, but for what it's going to unlock in value for our customers. And so we're really excited about it. And, getting back to customers again, you've heard a lot from me. When we close things out today, Brian, I know when we wrap up, Daimler is one of our great customers out of Germany, and I'll let them talk to you directly about what their experience is with Icertis. So we'll roll that here at the end. But before we close and we hear from Daimler, I'd also like to mention that many of our customers benefit from working with trusted service advisors to define and implement their contract strategy. Whether this involves integrations with other systems of record like Dynamics or leveraging breakthrough technologies like AI and blockchain, Icertis is proud to partner with services partners like Accenture and Deloitte, Grant Thornton, PwC, and Wipro, among many others, who can help build a robust contract business strategy that combines investments across the business and aligns business objectives, again, to unlock that value of contract intelligence for our customers. So, with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Brian, and we can wrap up with thanks and then hear from our customer at Daimler.
Yeah, sounds good, Steve. And that comment you made at the end is super critical as well, because we do have a lot of Microsoft software integrators who come across these LinkedIn Live events and listen. And so if you don't currently work with Icertis, one of the great opportunities, because if you're doing deployments, Dynamics deployments in organizations, especially the ones that Steve had talked about, definitely take an opportunity to reach out to Icertis or Steve directly to evaluate how a partner-to-partner motion could benefit you and then to drive better outcomes to the organization. So I'm going to flash up a couple things that, again, as a wrap-up, as we're wrapping up the session, definitely take advantage of resources that we compiled in this easy link. So if you just type in or save it later and look at it later, if you just type in aka.ms/LinkedIn Live, today's date, September SEPT 20, that will give you a wealth of information, many of the things that Steve talked about and much more that really can give you, if you are listening to this for the first time, have never come across Icertis, gives you a lot of good information and details to review. And so with that being said, I don't see any specific comments that are coming in the window. I do want to give a shout out. Someone did just join and is watching from Romania. So thank you so much, Anna, for taking the time to go do that. So that being said, team, if there aren't anything else, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And as Steve mentioned, when we end the session, we actually have a quick video from Daimler that talks about the outcomes that they were able to derive from Icertis. I want to thank all of you for watching the LinkedIn Live event. Again, we do this every Monday. Next week, we have another great BizApps GISV called Seismic that does things for sales enablement. Nothing with contract management, but regarding sales enablement and how we can help sellers be more productive. So again, I appreciate it. Steve, thank you so much. And the Icertis team for being such a great longstanding partner across many different areas of Microsoft, including Azure, including Dynamics, and including Teams. I want to thank you for your time. Any last minute comments before we wrap up and end with the video?
No, just wanted to say thank you to you, Brian. Thank you to anybody who's watching out there. And thank you for the partnership, Microsoft. It really is a market-leading partnership that we've built up over the years.
Great. Sounds good. Well, have a great day, everybody. Thanks again. And just stay on for the next few seconds because we do have this great video for everyone to see. Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, everybody.
The big benefits we're getting out of this solution together with Icertis is that we have an integrated solution for sourcing and contracting, more efficient process, and a lot better regulatory compliance.
From sourcing to contracting, we have gained speed, but it has also made us safer. We have our risks transparent, we have our process transparent, and our buyers like the software. It's easy to use. The software guides the buyer through the process, so the user always knows what to do next.